Friends and neighbors, it's Tuesday at 2 o'clock. Your boxes have arrived. You're opening them. The comics are laid out. You're beginning to do your pulls. And what do you see on the internet, on the screen, but yet another week of white bald guys talking about the industry of comics from behind the scenes and in such a detail that most people really won't care. That's right. It's Comic Industry Insiders Live. We have a huge show this week. We have a big announcement that we're going to be talking about. We have a tremendous look at what we're calling comics aggregators or publishing aggregators. We have so many things, and I'm curious to know whether or not my buddy Brian, who was my counterpart. Oh, he's ready to go. There you go. I always worry I haven't vamped long enough because, he's got to get himself sexy. You know what I'm saying? He's got to do the thing. So, yeah.
You're too good. You're too good. Well, I am actually currently downloading our slide deck so that I can upload it into StreamYard. So, that's why I have you vamping right now.
I appreciate that. I can keep vamping on and talking a little bit. It's been a crazy couple weeks, especially for us here at Prana, as we're building a new program that we're going to be talking about. We've had an amazing team, two of whom are in the chat. If you are in the chat, if you're watching us live, we would love to hear what you're thinking. And we are constantly trying to put together a show that helps you understand the comics industry as it changes, as it is a dynamic living organism. And this week is no different. We've been looking at some of the changes to our industry, and both as a company, as Prana, we're trying to develop programs that will help grow it. And also as an industry, we're all just trying to make sure that we understand where all the pieces to this puzzle are fitting. It's been a real time. You know what I'm saying? It's been a real time of change, and we're glad to have you guys along with us to do it. Hey, Tommy. Hey, Jeremy. The show can start now. Tommy and Jeremy.
There you go. It's interesting too, because I can't remember a time in the industry, even I was around during the original distributor wars, and even they weren't as chaotic as this, because first of all, the industry was less complicated then.
Yeah,
just straight up. There were less products, right? And there were less publishers. There was less everything. There were less choices in the world. You didn't have 1,000 streaming services you could jump on, or a super high definition video game console that you could play that was in your pocket, by the way. The amount of changes that have happened in the world, compounded with the amount of changes we're going through in the industry, it creates opportunity if you look at it positively, creates chaos if you look at it negatively. And the full truth is probably somewhere in the middle of both of those things.
Well, and we're two people who are always looking for ways to grow something positive for everybody, and especially for our own companies, our own teams. But we're also it is, I think, the real difference between this particular distributor war, if you want to call it that. I don't think it is. It's more of a, I don't know. It's more of a distributor crisis where everybody's kind of starting to pitch in and find their place. I think the difference between this one and the one that happened in the late 90s when I was working in a comic book shop is the speed at which we're hearing about it and the speed at which things are changing, because I just remember one day we woke up and we were told you had to get a Heroes World account in order to carry Marvel in your store, right? And that was what? How do we? All right, that's very strange. I mean, we already have a few distributors, so it was. I mean, I remember that time, but I also remember it playing out in sort of compared to now, slow motion. I mean, it happened in Comics Retailer Magazine and the CBG, right? And it happened, a little bit of internet, but you would just hear conversation. I remember very clearly during that period, the way that we found out what books we were getting each week was we would call a hotline, and a man named Jesse. Oh, what is Jesse's last name? He's married to Nancy McCann. I guess he'd be Jesse McCann.
Jesse Leon McCann.
That's right. Jesse's voice would be on this answering machine to tell you what books you were getting. That's how we got information back then. And and it was very
too.
time, right?
Yeah.
AKA Uncle Jesse on the Experience. Well, there you go. He's still around.
He
He's
is a
still
big part of the experience, even if it is just for chaos.
And if you wanted to call Diamond during that time, you always heard Nance Romer's voice. And so we all fell in love with Nance Romer's voice before we met her. St. Nance. Amazing. There you go. So yes, that's our old man trip down the memory lane. Was that enough time to get our deck up and running?
Oh yeah, she's running. She's running.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk this week about what is an aggregator. This is the word that we're giving to services like what Massive is doing, what we're going to be announcing later on in this show. It is a way for publishers to participate in the direct market during a time when they're very limited bandwidth from the distributor side and from the retailer side. So these new service providers are popping up, and we're joining that field. And that we wanted to kind of give you an understanding of why they're necessary and what it is that they do. But before we do that, because we're a weekly show, we like to do some headlines. So we're gonna dig into some of those, and what is our first? What story did we settle on?
Great question. Polybags, the return of polybags. So the polybag and more importantly, the blind bag craze is pretty much nuts right now. Just last week, both Marvel and DC announced new ones. DC's is for TCKO, and Marvel's is escaped me right now at this exact moment. On top of that, our friend Mark Spears here, who has Monster and the Wolf #1, is doing 70. Did I say 72 or 75?
I think you said 75 different covers.
75 covers inside of this cover A. So the cover A is going to be a blind bag. And then inside of that will be 75 different comics, which I am fascinated to find out what the UPCs on those look like. That should be fun. And so this is, and then there's 4 other covers. There's going to be a B cover that is a 1 in 25, a C cover that is a 1 in 50, and a D cover that's a 1 in 100. DC's doing something with the DCKO book, and I think it was for Secret Invasion or whatever the new Ultimate Invasion, whatever the new Ultimate storyline that's going to basically end the Ultimate line. Because what better way to celebrate your best-selling comics than to cancel them all?
Well, I see this as a really interesting opportunity for retailers. Specifically, one of the clients that we have at Prana is a company called VFriends, which is led by Gary Vaynerchuk. They were very early in making these sort of blind bag books that they sold, but they made them blind bag specifically because they're selling them on live selling first. And when you look at that whole culture of box breaking that comes out of like sports cards and and any other collectible cards where somebody is live selling, and I've heard about them auctioning off a book. Auctioning off cards before they open the pack, so that you don't know what it is that you're getting. That kind of it's dramatic. It's dynamic. It's a new opportunity, I think, for retailers who want to lean into that sort of drama. And we saw this obviously the biggest success we've seen recently is was it Battle Beast? Am I going to remember that name right?
Yeah,
from the Invincible universe.
Yep.
It's amazing. I mean, it could have been sort of a non-launch. It could have been quiet, except it was coming out from Skybound, who does an amazing job of keeping people excited. But it could have been a real sleepy launch, except for that blind bag. It made all the difference in the world, and they put so many assets into the bag and the product itself. Huge opportunity for publishers, and I think even a bigger opportunity for retailers that are leaning into that kind of drama. Are you guys? Are you doing? How do you manage this for your retail store?
For Earth 519, we offer pre-orders, and then for Battle Beast, I went fairly hard on like, I think I ordered an extra. So hard for me would be like probably 25, 30 copies. which like I have 128 subscribers, right? So that's a significant number. And I think that book leveled out to about, if I remember right, I think it's doing about 20 copies a month, which is decent. That's like, 15% or so of my overall subscribers are subscribed to that book. So I have no problem with it. Yeah. And like Tommy says, I push pre-orders hard for these. I pushed them hard for the Batman Blind as a Bat blind bag promotion, and I'll push these too. Because one thing, don't tell any customers, the price points are higher. So I make more money. I like money. So I like it when price points are higher. And for me, it's as easy to sell a $6 book as it is to sell a $4 book. So
truthfully. And this is an interesting thing from Kyle, producer Kyle. As exciting as box breaking and that sort of thing is, it's very dangerous unless you have a platform that guarantees payment. Absolutely. I think that it does speak to our need to adjust all of our systems for the market that we have, right? Yep. So this market that's doing blind bags, we need to make sure that we're setting up systems in the stores and in online platforms. We need to make sure that we're setting up systems that guarantee our sales and allow us to participate. So Kyle, I'm putting that back on you, man. You're coming on to give me an excuse of why you can't?
No. I have friends who do blind or crack packing of like Marvel cards, right?
Yeah.
They've gotten burned by not taking payment ahead of time. So now what they do is they sell the packs that they're going to open next time during this show. And then on the next show, you can watch them be opened. So it's adapting how you approach it, saves you the headache. But it is kind of scary up places other than one.
True. All right. What else are we talking about today?
This one here, Diamond is holding millions of dollars of Fantagraphic comics.
Yeah. And they were having a sale. I think it ended yesterday, but it absolutely goes to, it is time. We wanted to talk about this because Fantagraphics announced their sale, and they did this as a result of the fact that there's an ongoing lawsuit. We reported on this a lot about, yes, what a graphic, this man says, the guy who put it together, that essentially is Fantagraphics is missing out on a ton of inventory that they cannot get access to because of these lawsuits. And so they're asking for people to step up and support by doing a big discount for what they have in their warehouse. I think it is another example of people refusing to be put down, right? We're going to be talking about this a lot of, the comics industry is shifting, and there was this refusal to let it put you under, I think it should be commended and celebrated,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jeremy, but also we got to work through the laws. You know what I'm saying? That's true. Also, yes, Dynamite did do a humble bundle that is available to help get through their bad news from Diamond.
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely. Ringos.
The Ringos have been announced, and we love this. I mean, every year I go to Baltimore Comic-Con, I go to the Ringos. I will tell you, I take some personal responsibility for it being the Ringos and not the Harveys, because we read the rules one year at Valiant, and we became the most nominated publisher ever because we read the rules and we figured out how to kind of maybe hack the system a little bit. So it did take. But that said, I don't think that they did. I don't think that they did what am I trying to say? I don't believe that our friend Dirk Manning, who we're going to be talking to and actually hearing from later in the show, I don't believe he in any way hacked this system. He actually did put out a quality book, and they rightfully got a nomination. So please, if you can vote, go vote for the Ringos. It is something that we do for ourselves, right? These awards really should be something that helps us all build these businesses,
Absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome.
Cool. Well, I think it's time for you to vamp a little.
Do I have to?
You got
it. Every week, not only do we do this live show, we also do a podcast that we release on Thursdays. Blake, if you're in the audience, I think you are, feel free to let us know who is going to be on this week's show. We do a newsletter we call the Prana Bullet, It is our wrap up of the headlines that we think are the most important if you're trying to run a business in comics. And we want to make sure that if you need to see these kinds of changes as they're happening, very dynamic, we want to make sure that you get at least one last chance before the weekend in order to do that. I also use an opportunity. I also talk about all sorts of stuff. So make sure that we're there. Oh yeah, Jack DeMaio. We talked about Whatnot earlier. We're going to be talking to the man himself from Whatnot, Jack DeMaio, this week in the podcast, which you'll find out if you sign up. Go to pranadm.com and sign up for the newsletter. We'll get you the next one. Awesome.
What is your new schedule? Because you've changed the schedule up a little bit. Like the podcast used to drop on Tuesdays, but I think it's Wednesdays now.
Yeah. So it's let me see if I get this right. Blake, feel free to get me in the comments and tell me I'm wrong. We do the live show on every Tuesday. Every Wednesday, we drop the audio version of the live show. So if you are an audio file and listening on your way to work, feel free to download it on Wednesday morning. Then on Thursday, we drop video and audio of the long form podcast. And then on Friday, we do our newsletter bullet. We have something we're working up on Monday. It's taking a little doing, but I think it's gonna be worthwhile. It's gonna be worth the wait when you're ready. So
cool. Well, there you go, folks. There's everything you need to know about Prana.
Probably not.
Let's talk about aggregators and not agitators, Jeremy.
Not agitators. No. So yeah, there you go. It's an audio. See, I didn't know we were doing a following week. There you go. Next Wednesday. See, you get by watching it live, you get ahead of the game.
Not only that, but we actually learn how our own system works. It's amazing.
Listen, when you get to a certain point, you can't keep it all in your head. I try. I do try. Awesome. Let's talk about what an aggregator is. So if you can go back a slide real quick.
Sure.
I can aggregate that. So actually we've seen places like Massive Indies and what Prana is going to be doing. We've seen them come up as a result of the Diamond bankruptcy. And I think it was a long time coming. We talked a little bit about that with Michael when we interview him. But really, like, it's been one of those things that hasn't been necessary, but it's been necessary even before that. In many ways, Image Comics is an aggregator of publishers. In many ways, they are a publisher because they do take product and take it to the printer and do the solicitation and do the marketing and do the promotion. But many of the studios that work with Image do a lot of those pieces. One of my first jobs in publishing was working for Top Cow Productions, which was an Image studio. And we handled all of our own marketing and all of our own PR and all of our retailer relations. So in that way, Image kind of acted as an aggregator for Top Cow because they were handling our solicitations without handling all of those other services that go into publishing. IDW has done this over the years. Places like Derby Pop needed a place to go. They would go into one of these larger publishers so that it would be so that they could go through the system that the publisher set up, work with the deals that the publisher has with printers, with the distributors, with the advertisers, all of those things. So this is not a new phenomenon, but it has become really important, right? It makes some sense. Am I wrong about that?
No, that makes total sense. Yeah.
Okay, good. So in light of the Massive Indies, in light of the Diamond bankruptcy, we saw several people come forward with a lot of solutions. We've heard from small distributors like Filbo is attempting to be a distributor for really small publishers who need a place to get into stores. But we also saw people who are trying to make sure that we are all together working together to get the books into the stores, even if you are a small publisher who doesn't have the same resources. And I think one of the most obviously the biggest one, we've already mentioned them a couple times, Massive Indies kind of stepped forward. And I believe we have an interview with Michael Calero. I think that's the next slide and the video, if we want to get that up and running.
I think it wasn't something we were intending on doing I mean, coming into 2025, our focus was, solely on our massive publishing titles, and, we weren't thinking about doing this. And then when the Diamond bankruptcy stuff happened, we started we quickly pivoted. We were probably I think we were the first publisher to get out of our exclusive contract and go over to Lunar. And immediately we started getting messages from other publishers that were, and for good reason, like they were having difficulty, either reaching Lunar or getting a response. And, to Lunar's credit, they were quick to respond to us. But I have to imagine there was like floodgates after that of people trying to reach them. And so I was hearing this, a few times from different publishers. And at first, there wasn't really, it didn't really spark like, I need to jump in and do something. But as, a couple of weeks went by, I realized, these people don't have a place to get their books out. Or they have to gamble at Diamond's going to pay them, which clearly that would have been a bad gamble. So where I saw the need was like, I have an account, I have the bandwidth to be able to create a project, a program like this. I think I'm the right person in the sense of I had a lot of connections with these various publishers prior to the launch. And I think, they had some trust in me that you have to have trust to do this. And so that was kind of where I saw the need, reacted very quickly. I think we built the program in like 2 weeks, really, from when we decided to try it. And, it definitely has seen some changes since we launched it.
That's excellent. Thank you. When you decided to jump into this, obviously you were putting the things together, as we often talk about building the plane after it's left the ground, right? And you obviously have had some iterations for this program. Can you talk for just a minute about what your experiences as a publisher have given you in knowing how to build that offer and how to build the service around what you're providing to publishers now?
Yeah, I mean, I think everything I've done in comic books is from the publishing side has always come from like, put yourself in the shoes of the creator or, the other party. Because I've been on, the different sides of this. I started out as an illustrator and writer and, got into the publishing side. So in this, I've been the publisher dealing with the distributor. I know what, makes sense, what doesn't, and the things that, the individual publishers were going to need as support in this, and what Lunar wasn't going to, like why a program like this is necessary. Like if you're trying to onboard, multiple publishers at the same time, you kind of have to build something that works for everyone and isn't a ton of additional workload. So that was kind of how I approached it. Was let me build the system that works for this specific issue, and think about, okay, well, when it comes to like, for instance, percentages, I know how slim the margins are for a publisher. So I know that there's not a lot of meat on the bone to give away to a second distributor or sub-distributor. So I built something that I thought was fair. And at the time it was, we started with a higher price point for, what we call our listing fee. And that was because I knew we didn't want to bring on a ton of publishers at once, because we needed to make sure it worked before we expanded it. And so for it to make sense and put the manpower and time into it, we knew kind of the number that needed to happen initially. And as soon as we got to a point where we knew it was functioning, we built the plane well enough to fly, we lowered the listing fees and brought on some more publishers.
That, and I did see, I think I even mentioned it in a Facebook conversation where we saw that adjustment, and I commended you for that. Still do. I think it's wonderful that you saw that opportunity for the publishers. Can you talk now that you have been at this for a few months? You've got some people have worked their way through the system.
Yeah.
What are your long-term goals for Massive Indies?
To be honest, it's funny because like this started out as kind of a lifeboat program. It's something that these publishers needed distribution. They needed an answer very quickly. And what we've found is that by doing what we're doing, and this is kind of what I had hoped would be the byproduct of it, is a lot of these publishers are doing better now than they were on their own at Diamond, which, I know at the end of Diamond, everybody was kind of doing rough, but I mean, they're seeing really great numbers. They're seeing sometimes triple what they were getting in orders. And so for me, I look at it like we're curating, some of the best indie publishers. That's our job, is to be kind of the eyes and ears of retailers and say, hey, these are the books you want to order. This is the stuff that's going to sell if it ends up in your shop. And that's how we pick the publishers and studios that we're working with. I look at it, I don't look at it from like I love this book, I want to publish this book. I look at it from, is this book going to sell? Is there an audience for this book at comic book shops? Is there, there's some stuff where we've gotten submissions where the books will look really great, but they're very similar to something else we're already, doing with another publisher. And we were like, okay, let's stagger that so that we're not putting the same types of books into the market at the same time. So there is kind of like a curation element to it that I think is what the program, I think, will more be known for in the long term, because I think people will eventually forget why it started or not think about why it started. But they'll, as a retailer, if you can go to one section in the catalog and say all of these books are going to be quality, and they're going to be on, they're going to be done professionally, they're going to be of a certain standard, and it's not so much of a gamble of their dollars. That's kind of the goal.
Excellent. I think one last question. When somebody is deciding whether or not to go with Massive Indies in order to get distribution, and they're trying to decide if they're going to be a good fit, maybe even before reaching out to you, what would you say a Massive Indies publisher looks like? Is there some like, overlap of all the people that you've chosen so far?
I mean, it's kind of a generic answer to some degree, but I think it's just quality, to be honest, because I don't think any of our publishers are too similar to each other. There's definitely some that play in the same genre. We have a couple of publishers that do like horror books. We have a couple of publishers that are kind of more on the indie side. But what we look at is really the quality, and also like, something for, if anybody's watching this and thinking like, oh, is this something I want to submit to, or put my hat in the ring. I say make sure what you're doing is quality before you submit, because we got a lot of submissions at one point that were folks that were kind of not really ready. Their books were either early development, things like that. I think get what you're making together, make sure it's of a certain quality, make sure it's presented well. Like a lot of the links that we would get for our submissions would be like, throwing together websites, things like that. So like from the submission standpoint, this we're a sub distributor. We're not a publisher, so we're not taking that off the publisher's hands. So you have to be able to present a really great product. And then as far as like the deal itself, what I've kind of seen with what we're doing is like we're elevating things that are already great. So a lot of times the percentages that we take, the listing fee we take, is offset by like how much more these publishers are making.
Wonderful. Is there anything we haven't covered? I appreciate you jumping in there at the last minute. I really do, and I know you're probably not completely prepared for the full pitch, but is there anything we should be talking about that we haven't covered?
No, to be honest, the thing that I've been thinking about a lot lately is this, what this has shown me is that like publishers they could work together and elevate each other's product, but also like it's really a retailer program. you know, at the end of the day, it's retailers who are buying these books. And, you know, we want to thank the retailers for supporting that, because a program like this would fail if retailers were like, you know. So to see them really step up and support indie books, and that's been a really awesome experience. I think what you're doing, like bring another option to the table, I think these are the kind of creative solutions that the industry needs, because I don't think the Diamond way of doing things really was working. I've said for years that, like, you know, there's always that like comics are dying kind of thing, and but I think the Diamond system was kind of it was a too big of a pond, where for a retailer, like, to get a catalog that's that thick and you don't know what the quality of the books you're going to get, whether they're going to be on time, all of those things. I like that we're starting to move in a direction where it's like maybe is not as many options, but the comic book racks are looking really great right now. And, you know, we want to expand the program and hopefully be able to bring more folks to those shops.
Absolutely. Bringing more folks to the shops and putting out quality work. That's really, you know, at the end of the day, it's what it's about for all of us. Right. So
absolutely. Thank
you, brother. Really appreciate you jumping on today, and good luck. We'll see you in the catalog.
Yeah. Good luck. Good luck to you, my friend.
All right. All right.
That's
so
weird. That was a weird shot.
We're gonna get used to these transitions. So listen, the idea that we're dropping in new video, I think that is something that I'm glad we can participate with. Yeah. So yeah, what I liked what Michael said was the focus on, you know, having publishers focus on quality first. I think is one of those things that really cannot be overstated. Is that at the end of the day, you really need to make sure that you are putting out the best possible product you can before you start thinking about distributing or marketing or any of those things, right?
For sure.
So,
yeah. What is, like, explain to me the whole kind of life cycle of the aggregator.
So the aggregator really, at the end of the day, is an intermediary that refines down the amount of work that needs to be done. For the retailer, we as he mentioned, the Diamond catalog got to a place where it was just huge and unwieldy. Like, we were going through hundreds of publishers at any given time, whereas an aggregator can really refine and curate the kinds of publishers that are going to get seen, even though they are small enough that they maybe can't afford the sort of back end staff that needs to be happening. So it refines for the retailer what the offerings are and what, you know, brings best practices to those publishers. For the distributor, it refines down to having one single point of contact, right? So with massive indies, they only have to deal with Michael, even though he's covering lots of different publishers. With our project, the same, right? We are going to be bringing our publishers to distribution, and they only have to deal with us. It's a single payment that we distribute. It's a single person putting metadata and solicitation info in. It's refinement for them, right? And I would say that generally speaking, those being the two big stakeholders, anything that reduces the amount of friction of products coming to market is useful, because there is just so much friction getting a product into market. Sure. So yeah, I would say that's generally what it is for. And so it is those three tiers of refinement that really an aggregator steps into. It's knowing what best practices are for information and solicitation and metadata. It's being able to say, this product is ready. Maybe it's not ready. We need to make sure that it is of the same standard of the rest of the books that we're putting out. And it's things like revenue, making sure that the distributor is handing over the right amount of money, making sure the right amount of money gets to the publishers so that they can continue to do what they're doing. It's a lot. There's a lot of service and a lot of hand holding and a lot of being an intermediary that takes work off of everyone's plate. So that's why it ends
Right.
up being really necessary.
So
In the
it's
same way that a
almost,
POS system is like an intermediary, it is an aggregator of data,
for sure.
right? Yeah.
So it's almost kind of in a way back to the old brand manager thing, but at a slightly
Sure.
higher level.
Sure. We are essentially a brand manager for our clients. And then we work with brand managers at the different distributors.
Right.
So I think our next slide is where we get to talk about what the we of this, right? Well, we talked about that a little bit. I knew that was there.
So here's the things that includes is
Yeah,
the
we're
benefits, I guess.
lowering the staffing needs of the distributor. We're lowering the staffing needs of the publisher. We're increasing the resources that are available for both of them. So as a result of this, the distributors are not dealing with all of the submissions that we're dealing with, and they're also not having to teach every new publisher how the whole system works. And which all of this increases the bandwidth of everybody. Like, it allows us to really focus on communicating to the customer and communicating to retailers. And it allows retailers to have a single voice that they can deal with rather than have to deal with a cacophony of different publishers. So it just reduces down the number, the points of contact in this whole system that we do.
Yeah, I'm going to make a humble suggestion. I think all aggregators should be part of Comment.
Oh, we're gonna get into Comment.
really having you guys, not only provide your feedback, which is super important, but understand kind of the whys, because there's a lot of stuff we do that we explain the hows, but we don't tell you the whys, right? And I think understanding some of those whys, you and I have had some really good conversations where you're like, why are you doing this dumb thing? And then I go, this is why. And you're like, oh, yeah, we do.
It's usually the other way around. It's usually, why are you doing this dumb thing? And then I explain it and you go, oh yeah, I guess we have to code around that.
Well, and there's that too. Yeah. I think it's a give and take, but it's important for that communication to be out. So yeah, aggregators all join Comment and we will get you on the next thing.
Awesome. This is the one piece I wanted to cover because it's something that has happened a lot inside of the conversation around distribution. I don't believe distribution is a right. It is a resource that it has a finite amount of, there's a finite hole that all of the product can go through. And if you assume that you have a right to that finite resource, that's how the resource becomes so spread out that, say, a monopoly gets into a place where it can go bankrupt, right? Yep. It is that refinement that is necessary, and you need to be prepared if you're going into the market. So having people who are there to kind of withhold those standards or uphold those standards, I think is really crucial for our industry to keep growing,
Also, getting distribution without all the other pieces in place is a surefire way to bankrupt yourself. Right? Like, if you don't have all the pieces to support that distribution, you may think but we don't know what we don't know. And that is the scariest. That's the thing that bankrupts us, right? Like, the unknown unknowns. That I always go back to Donald Rumsfeld, who was an evil piece of crap, but he did that whole known knowns, known unknowns, and then your unknown unknowns. And it's like, it was so silly sounding, but it's so true. Your unknown unknowns are the things that are going to trip you up, and they're the things that aggregators can provide. Jeremy had a really good question here. At the risk of repeating myself, are aggregators responsible for clean metadata?
I mean, I will say we're responsible for working with the stakeholders to make sure the metadata works for all of them. So we're going to get into a little bit about some of the challenges of working with different distributors a little bit later in the show, but it is our responsibility to understand the system as well as it can be understood, and to explain to our publishers why things are the way they are, is those known knowns, right? And so sometimes there are mistakes, but sometimes there are programs that don't fit the metadata, right? And so it is our job to help try and make that work, even when it feels like it's a square peg in a round hole. So, yeah,
absolutely.
So this is where we're going to bring on I do want to note our new direct market specialist, Keith Davidson. This is not how his last name is
Oh
spelled.
no, we won't even show that. We won't even show
We should show. It's a good design, but this is not. It should have an E in it. And I'm hitting the shame bell for
poor
a certain
Blake.
member
Poor
of our
Blake.
team. But
Listen, Blake was working real hard, and this came together so fast.
this
He
was
did
that
such
came
a
at the
great job.
last minute. It really did. Keith, I know that you are in the green room. Can you join us? Hey, buddy.
Hey.
I want to thank you for joining us today, but also thank you for wearing a hat so it's not just three bald guys on the screen.
I know. I threw it on just to differentiate myself.
Welcome aboard to the Prana team. We've really enjoyed having you. Keith comes with an incredible background in comics. Can you give us just a quick nugget of how your bona fides?
Sure. Yeah, I've been in comics for 25 years. I started out doing editorial work for Sirius Entertainment back in 2000. I worked at Diamond Comic Distributors for 6 years. And then ever since then, for the past 15 years, I've been doing either marketing or sales or both focus for Avatar Press and Dynamite Entertainment and IDW Publishing and Mad Cave Studios. So yeah, I've been around.
You sure have. And learning the direct market and all of its little ins and outs. It's there is no college course for it, is there? It's a tragedy, really, that we all have to learn this on the go, right?
Yeah. I feel like I know that distribution channels have changed certainly over the years, but I feel like the time that I spent at Diamond Comics, even 6 years that I spent there back in the 2000s, like it informed so much of everything that I've done since and my understanding of just how retail works, how supply chains work. It's just and it's the kind of education that you get that, I mean, once you learn it, it's so invaluable in every single aspect of what you do. Even on the creative side, every once in a while I write something, and even that, like, just knowing how things get to market is so crucial in every aspect of what we do in comics. So, yeah.
And I will say that when I started Prana way back when, I had a good friend ask me what we were trying to do, and I said I wanted to be one of the few organizations that could see the whole board, understand how comics works completely, right? And I think you do so much to bring that to that depth. I think this is a good opportunity to bring up our big announcement of our the next slide. If someone behind the screen who isn't going to screw this up can do that. Prana Publishers, right? We could look. First off, can we talk about the genius of design that is Ryan Hughes? I love this. I love this logo, but that's just me. Of course, I'm going to love my own cooking. Let's talk about what it is that we are planning for Prana Publishers. Can you give us an understanding of how you are going to be involved in that and what sort of service we're going to be providing publishers?
Sure. I think that what we're looking to do is we're taking on projects or publishers and projects that we see an immense potential in their storytelling, in the stories being able to reach an audience, and therefore a very large potential in sales. And we're bringing value to our partnerships with these different publishers by being able to communicate those strengths to the marketplace. I think I've been around the block for a while, and I know a lot of retailers. I adore Comics Pro, and I used to love going to Diamond Retailer Summit when that was there. So I definitely know lots of different channels to reach out to retailers on a direct basis and be able to represent the product. I feel like Prana taking on these different publishers, it's an endorsement of how good a quality the projects are, and I'm going to be reaching out to retailers through every possible avenue that we've got to make sure that they know what the product is and they know that it has great potential in their stores.
Love that. Thanks so much for doing that. We can talk about the fact that this is a program that's already underway. When we talked about Michael building a plane while it's already off the ground. This actually is we're about to announce our second publisher who's joining this. Our first was Main Entertainment, with a book called The Last Spartan. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. But we can talk right now about our next client. If you want to bring up that slide, folks. Yes. SourcePoint Press. We are involved with SourcePoint in their return to the direct market and bringing these books to retailer shelves in our little piece of the world, and making sure that they get the best possible representation in that. I think this is actually where we can throw in a clip of the two gentlemen behind the scenes at SourcePoint, and I had an opportunity to catch up with them, and we can hear more about what that program is.
And so it got to a point where, as we had to halt things and cancel all these series and stuff, the lights were on almost for Dirk exclusively. And that was the point at which he was like, let's really talk, like, what would it take to bring this back, to bring it back to not necessarily where it was before, but to grow it and to be able to expand and bring on titles once again. And it was a hard road. It wasn't easy. In the case of say like bankruptcy, there's a lot of things that a publisher has to do to be able to successfully go through that bankruptcy. And that unfortunately means tying up all in-house IPs, tying up all assets, all brand names, all anything that's owned, in case that the bank or whoever can pluck it away from you, give it a dollar value and give it to someone else. So, we sat down and we really kind of worked things out and figured out how to separate the SourcePoint brand name from Oxide Media. And that was the first step. And that, of course, meant Dirk essentially taking on the duties of publisher and editor-in-chief and all of the work that comes with that. But, of course, there is no money that comes with that either. So, what's it going to take to get things rolling? How do we make our best, first step back into the world? And Dirk has been the catalyst for all of this. And Dirk kind of dragged me back too. And he wanted me to still be involved. He wanted me to be attached because been here since the very beginning, and he also has a great respect for my my expertise and knowledge. So now we're taking that shot. We're taking that risk again because it's worth it, and the creators are worth it. They need the home.
Yeah, that was Josh Werner, the CMO. I can't remember exactly what his title is. Josh is the kind of the through line of SourcePoint through to where we are now with Dirk Manning coming on to bring SourcePoint back. What do you think? Where do you think retailers are going to be? How should they be focusing in on a product like SourcePoint? Like, why is it important for them to have something like this on their shelves, and how can they think about that?
Oh, geez. I adore the kind of storytelling that SourcePoint does have. I love their library of horror. I've always felt that there's been a marketplace for horror in comics that has been untapped. I mean, obviously there's plenty of publishers who do horror, but I feel like you can go further. There's more of an audience out there. They're always hungry. I'm looking forward to delving into their library and being able to really pull out what the real strengths of every new product is that they're going to be putting out every month.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks for that. I really appreciate that, Keith. For the rest of you comics retailers, we are going to be bringing SourcePoint to, I believe, the catalog later this year. We're still working out those details. But there will be a big announcement coming up shortly, both about our friend Keith here, and that is how he spells his last name, and all of the long list of incredible work that SourcePoint is going to be doing. We do have some really great video. I think we're going to put together a quick package that we'll run on our regular channels later on. But thanks so much for joining us, Keith. Really appreciate that.
Great. Very happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me. And I look forward to working with folks moving forward.
Absolutely. Awesome. Thanks so much. Brian.
Yes, I'm back.
So let's talk about like where, what the role of these places like ours, like Prana publishers, and places like Massive Indies. Let's talk about the role that they have in the backend data. You referenced that for a little while as well.
Yeah.
Can let's just dig into some of that.
Oh, give a quick pre-order, should I?
I really should. The Last Spartan is currently on FOC. If you are a comics retailer,
it's not currently on FOC.
Not currently. FOC is coming up, right? It's
the
coming
29th of September, I think.
Is that right? That was yeah. Okay, there you go.
Let me just check in. I'll confirm it. Just give me one moment, please. Please vamp.
I'm vamping.
September 29th, September 22nd.
There you go.
2025, and the ship date is my birthday, October 15th, 2025.
There you go. Thank you, Megan. Megan is the keeper of all the data, and
there you go.
I get things wrong. Awesome. Please do, if you're a fan. The Last Spartan is Tyler Main doing an incredible, really dark and gritty crime story about human trafficking, and him being an MP that goes in and saves people from that world. And it's just the first of a long line of stories they have ready to tell. I can't wait till we tell you some of the creators that are going to be involved. This one has Christopher Priest writing, and it's fantastic. It absolutely is wonderful.
If you're interested in some more information about The Last Spartan, I highly recommend you check out their fantastic website. This really talented web developer who's kind of been retired from web development for a number of years put this guy together, and it's just such a great website. And it does have, like, honestly, it has all the story information. You'll find all the information about the actual project here. It's really, really cool. I had a great time putting this site together, and got to have a couple times where Wolverine or Sabretooth called my phone, which gave me untold nerd points with my son, which was great. Oh yeah, no, I was just chatting with Sabretooth, whatever.
Awesome. Yes. So let's talk about metadata, because all of the things that we're talking about are complexities on top of a system that was built for the Diamond catalog and the Diamond way of doing business, right? In many ways, that everything that we're building began with that team at Diamond trying to just figure out what they needed in order to get books into comic shops. And we've all just been building on top of that platform ever since. So what does it all mean for us as an aggregator, and you as a POS system, and the stores together? What should we all be thinking about in this world?
So yeah, for the longest time, there was the Diamond way of doing things, which was good. It wasn't great, it wasn't perfect, but it worked. And Diamond did a lot of really, really important things. Like in 2009, a lot of people don't know this. Pre-2009, if you grab a comic, every 12 months they reuse the same UPC code, which is how magazines have done it forever. In 2009, Diamond implemented the Final Five, right? The Final Five issue cover and printing kind of concept, which was so far ahead of its time, really. And they enforced that. You could not have a comic published if you didn't have that Final Five. And that was one of the jobs of the brand managers, was to maintain that metadata, to make sure that you were using the right formats for your barcodes, all these little things that, we don't even think of because they were a muscle that we didn't have to use. It was just unconsciously happening. So when Diamond started kind of going away, and more importantly, when we had new distributors coming on board, they didn't have any of that institutional knowledge. They didn't know that these things were necessary, and that without those things would break. So that's kind of where Comet came into play. So the comics industry metadata group, where we started talking to distributors, publishers, retailers. There were 90 different people that helped create a standard. Now that standard is a living standard. So we're changing things as the industry changes. And this is a perfect example. Right now, Managed Comics itself doesn't have a way to accommodate SourcePoint being the publisher inside of Prana Publishing. Doesn't mean we won't always, but we don't have that. And more importantly, there's no data to feed that right now. So the three of us, you, myself, and Megan, were looking at the Lunar files earlier that you guys have. And there is a field that we can probably use, but it's not currently being used for that purpose. So right now, like with massive indies, we don't actually know which sub publisher anything belongs to. It all comes in as massive. So that's, important both to the brands and I think in some ways to consumers. Consumers who are looking for Coffin Comics will want to know when somebody is distributing Coffin Comics. And if that brand never gets surfaced because it's part of massive indies or Prana or IDW or whomever it is, that's a bit of a disconnect with the market. So this data I think is important, and making sure that we're communicating it to everybody, from publishers all the way down to the actual creators who should be thinking about some of this stuff as well.
That's an excellent point, and I think as a result of that, we do have a polite request. If you
we
don't
do,
mind.
yeah.
We want to speak to our friends at the distributors, our friends at Lunar, at Penguin Random House, at Universal Distribution, at the newly owned Diamond Comic Distributors UK. We'd like to politely request that we know from talking to you that you all have plans for bringing on the Comet standard for comic shops for that metadata. We would love it if you could escalate those efforts and work that into your systems sooner rather than later. It would allow people like us, the aggregators, to be able to both provide the service that we're going to be providing to you and to promote those individual publishers. It allows you to do a whole lot of other things that we've talked a lot about on this show, and that Brian and Django and Jeff and Katie and what's her name at PRH? I can't remember her name. Am I freezing? Are you freezing? Are we freezing together? Okay, great.
Oh,
never mind.
You mean Jess? You mean
Jess? Yes, thank you.
Jessica.
That's right. Well, the thing they worked so hard to build. A minute there, I thought we were both in trouble. They did such an incredible job with the Comet standard, and we would love it if you could, just decrease the timeline with which we all adopt this thing. That would make all of our lives that much easier.
I will tell you, I have files regularly dropped. I literally need to just start ingesting them from Penguin Random House. And one of the major things that I went to Montreal for was to talk to Universal about Comet, and they're like pushing full steam ahead. So these are things that are getting done. And I know that Lunar has plans. And it's just, Lunar is resource constrained just like the rest of us. So
absolutely.
Diamond UK, I've just started having conversations with them, and I think we're going to have some really, really good conversations over the next little while. So I'm excited for them. So it is being moved on. I think one of the key things is, and so I actually initiated this conversation with Django, Katie, and Jess earlier today. Where do we put this data because we do have an imprint field, but that doesn't quite feel right. So maybe it needs to be something else. But yeah, the conversations have started, and we'll be, I think, like the first or second week of September, we're having a couple of Comet meetings. So this will definitely be high on the list there.
So let's talk about our takeaways. We're coming in on the end. I think we're going to run a little bit long, and we have a nice little video from our friends at SourcePoint that we want to end with. But let's talk about our takeaways. How can the stakeholders that we're dealing with now, how can they start thinking about these things?
So yeah, our retailers, we're going to always recommend keep stocking and selling indie publishers. It's another way to diversify your sales and weather hard times, and also build a different audience from just the mainstream, Marvel, DC, and Image. Folks that like the indie stuff tend to come in more consistently to get that stuff as well. So really, really stoke that fire and keep it going. Publishers, you don't have to do this alone. There's partners who are available to help you build. So you need to focus on the quality before you're focusing on distribution, but they can handle all the things that you don't know, those unknown unknowns, or actually they're in fact known unknowns. You just don't know that they're unknowns. And finally, distributors, come it or bust. Bring it on. And I think everybody is rowing in the right direction. We just don't want to lose momentum. And we've lost a little bit this last year. To be honest, Django and I have been overwhelmed with like 1,000 other things since January. And we haven't really pushed the group as much as we need to. And we're going to rectify that starting in September. So yeah, there you go.
Wonderful.
I have a quick request.
Let's hear it.
I built a little tool called the Publisher Locator that is available at cometstandard.com/publisher locator. And it's literally just a dumb Google sheet, but you can comment on it and say that this distributor now carries this publisher. If you go to that thing, you leave the comment, one of us will review it and change the status of that thing. And we're hoping this will create magic. Eventually, probably build a better tool than this, but we really need to start figuring out where people are landing, because it's not currently easily being communicated. And most importantly, the diamond side of the ledger has a lot of distributors or publishers that I just don't believe are still there. So we really need to start getting this updated. So publishers, if you're listening to this, please go to cometstandard.com/publisher locator and help us figure out where you are. It'd be super helpful.
And
I'm just going to
please jump. Now it's time for you to pitch something. Let's hear it.
I'm going to pitch something.
Great. Yeah.
So Oryx, which is the next generation of managed comics, it's we're still going to have the Shopify version, but we're building a version that is specific for RMH, Lightspeed, and other non-Shopify users. We have a wait list right now. We are literally about to uncork the bottle and bring like 40 people onto this thing. And I'm pretty excited for it. There's going to be a lot of announcements around this stuff in the next few weeks. But yeah, definitely get there. Go to managedcomics.com and add yourself to the wait list.
This is huge. This right here. Go back really quickly because I don't want people to lose it. This is an incredible piece that you built. Like this is one of those saving comics moments where you guys jumped into a need that was absolutely crucial, and I think you're filling that really wonderfully. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm really proud of my team. Like we did it. We got the core of it put together in like, I think it was 8 days. And then we basically spent a week or two kind of fixing the little bugs that were going to get introduced from an 8-day creation of a product. And the stuff that we've got going on right now, and the one thing that, oh God, I want to show it so badly, but I will not. When you guys see a couple of these things, so the one thing that we're working on is bigger than just managed comics. It will be for the entire comics industry. And I think it's super cool. I'm so proud of it and excited to see it get out there. So yeah, it's Can't wait for
that. Maybe you can spend one of these episodes talking about you, and it won't just be a product show.
Absolutely.
Let's say one last thing. Please do get on the list. We do this. If you go to pranadm.com right now and hit the sign up button, we'll make sure to get you into the Prana Bullet. This is it's a real quick in and out way of what are the highlights, what are the things we all need, and want to make sure that you get that. And finally, we want to end. I will tell you, this was a new sort of format for us. It was the first time we ever recorded video from somebody else and then brought it in. And so I don't know if you noticed that there were a little bit of hiccups, but man, we're getting better at it. We have one quick little montage from our friends at Source Point that includes Josh Werner and Dirk Manning, where they talk about why they went ahead and jumped on with Prana. And listen, we're so proud of it. We wanted to end with that. Thank you for jumping on once again and joining our live show. Please do, if you haven't already, like, subscribe, and hit the alert button so that you know that it's showing up in your feed when we drop. And if you're out there selling comics, if you're out there making comics, if you're out there buying comics, we want to say a hearty thank you because you guys are the ones that make all of this work for us. And Brian and I really aren't much good at much else. So we appreciate you keeping doing what you're doing. All right, Brian. Thanks so much, buddy. Kyle, thank you. Michael Calero, thanks for coming on. Josh Werner and Dirk Manning, thanks for the kind words that we're about to show everybody. All right. Namaste, y'all.
Namaste, y'all.
We are going to augment what creators are doing. Prana will augment what SourcePoint is doing. I was very transparent with you about this is what my capacity is, this is what our capacity is, this is what we can do, this is what we need help on. And what we need help on is what Prana specializes in.
Because you understand the industry inside and out from a lot of different angles. So many people, like consulting agencies and such, they really have a very limited view and a limited scope. You really understand the full picture from all angles. And I felt like that was really important. Not only are you well respected in the industry, and you have all these great connections that you've built and partnered with, but most importantly, you would understand what SourcePoint is at its core.
What you do with the press, the various connections you have and the various benefits you have is what we need. And specifically what I need as a publisher to offer these creators who are out there pushing and things like that. There's not a lot of independent press on creator-owned books, but you have the connections to shine a light on it, right? Prana has the ability to help amplify and augment what we're doing and then what I'm doing for the other creators that I'm bringing in and saying, look, I may be Sub Pop to your Nirvana. You want to be here for one book. You may be a lifer here, right? But let's help get the message out there. Let's augment what you're doing. We have Whalebacker to help support us. Now we're partnered with Prana to help us and really just do things right and just continue to keep the integrity of the creative process there while also honoring it as a business.
For us to take these steps and make these connections, it's your guys' opinions I respect most.